Hey YouTubers, we're back with another episode, and this time we're going to focus on one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and that's Wong Kar Wai. I'm going to actually try to somehow rank his films, because I've seen everything besides just one, and that's Ashes of Time. This is a big epic film that he made from the early 90s that I have yet to been able to track down a good copy of. The one time I had it in my hands, I felt the disc was scratched, so I had to pass. But that's the only film I haven't seen. I've seen everything, and this Criterion collection is awesome because it includes all of his movies except for one, The Grandmaster, which came, I think, about 2013 or so. That focuses on it's a martial arts film that focuses on the teacher of Bruce Lee, Ip Man, and it was fantastic. If you haven't seen it, you should see it. But I'm gonna try to rank from what I have seen, and yeah, we'll move from there. This Criterion collection, if you like Wong Kar Wai, is absolutely superb. It comes with this awesome book that I'm going to be using to kind of bounce around, so I don't have to take all the discs out and show you individually. But yeah, I just wanted to really highlight this filmmaker because I remember the first time I saw one of his movies, it was Chungking Express, and I got it specifically because on the cover, I'll admit, it said Quentin Tarantino presents Chungking Express. And I was like, I had no idea that he's produced this movie in China, or Hong Kong, should I say? Even though I know he loves Hong Kong directors, which I do as well, like John Woo and obviously Wong Kar Wai and Jackie Chan stories, like just great filmmakers, very stylistic and just they stand out above the rest. Honestly, that late '80s to early '90s Hong Kong era, like when I was young, first getting into movies, I was into Jean Claude Van Damme films, naturally, martial arts, and he has a movie called Double Impact, which is set in Hong Kong. And I probably saw that movie way too early for what it was because it had a graphic sex scene. It was the first sex scene I ever saw, and it had a terrifying villain. I believe his name is Bolo Yang. Bolo. I know his name is Bolo in there. But yeah, just like viscerally remember this movie. I own it on DVD, as I do a lot of Jean Claude Van Damme films, just for nostalgia purposes. They're not like the best made films, except for Sudden Impact, or not Sudden Impact, Double Impact. So yeah, I've always had a fascination with Hong Kong films, and when I saw that Quentin Tarantino had produced Chungking Express, I was like, I had to get it. I remember buying. I was at Barnes and Noble, and I bought the movie without ever knowing anything about Wong Kar Wai or anything about his filmography or what he'd done. And I got home and I watched it, and it was like a love movie. There was no action sequences. There was no what I normally expected from a Quentin Tarantino. Some violence and some good dialogue, even though there's really good dialogue in the movie. It was more thoughtful and slow paced and had a wonderful voiceover, and it was just completely different than Quentin Tarantino. And I remember there was a feature that was Quentin Tarantino explains Chungking Express, so I was like, all right, well, I'll click that. And basically he was like, I saw this film in theaters when he was, I believe, if I recall right, he was showing Pulp Fiction, and he was like, I was floored by how good this movie was. So he helped get the international distribution rights so other people could see the film. And what a revelation! If anything with Tarantino, even if you don't like his films personally, you should check out like some of the films he talks about, or because he's unbelievably well versed in cinematic history. And I have been turned on to a lot of good films because of listening to podcasts or old YouTube videos or just seeking out things that he's talked about. I know he just wrote a book called Cinema Speculations that I need to read because I'm sure that will illuminate a bunch of movies I haven't heard of because the guy's seen it all, it seems like. So, back to the man of the hour, Wong Kar Wai. He, honestly, straight up, I think he's a better director than Tarantino, better director than most. I've said before, I think in a past video, like he's the only director I ever have known that can effectively film an ellipsis in a script. Just that dot dot dot, and then fill in the connective tissue there, and he can do it. his movies just seem to bring about so much like nostalgia and longing that I think is really hard for a lot of filmmakers to do, and he seems to do it effortlessly. He works a lot with the director of cinematography named Christopher Doyle, who I once I started realizing he shot a lot of Wong Kar Wai stuff. I actually sought out some other Christopher Doyle films, and that he was director of photography on. And man, that guy's got a good style. This was a wonderful pairing of two people with extraordinary talent. So now that I've kind of set it up a little bit, I'll just kind of go through based on like what are the films in here and kind of like where I rank them. And kind of maybe just give you like kind of a brief synopsis when I can. But yeah, so we'll start from there. So like with most directors, it's usually their debut films that are going to be at the lower tier of the list, just because they're kind of just figuring out their way still. But he had a really, really, really good debut, and it's called As Tears Go By. And I would rank that the lowest, but you should know that this is like the comparison would be like Mean Streets, Martin Scorsese's, like, two friends, one on the outside and one trying to, kind of stay the straight and narrow a little bit, and how they're trying to hold together when the world is kind of ripping them apart, and how they try to maintain that connection. And it's a very good film, especially for a debut. It doesn't necessarily have a lot of his director kind of, what am I trying to say? His like flourishes, his director flourishes. Like it doesn't really have those just yet because he's just starting out. But the story itself is well done, and I should say Wong Kar Wai writes a lot of these scripts. So yeah, he's unbelievably talented, which I've already said. I know I'm being redundant at this point, but I've always been attracted to people, especially directors that write their own scripts, because it just seems like they get more out of the film. I find. So moving on, and surprisingly, this movie is not included with this Criterion collection, but I would put next is My Blueberry Nights. It was his American debut. I've still yet to get a copy of that. I'm missing. Last one I found was also scratched, so I was like, I think I'm gonna have to buy all these new. But it had Norah Jones in it, Jude Law, Natalie Portman. It's kind of his style, kind of bouncing around, but and it's beautifully shot, and it does have a lot of David Strathairn's in it too, really like, and Rachel Weisz. I forgot. Yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. I enjoyed the movie, but I would put it on the lower part of his filmography. But it's worth seeking out for sure. Next, I would probably have to put, and this is just me personally, a lot of people have this film rated a lot higher, but I would put the movie 2046, which is the last movie included in this Criterion collection, and it's basically kind of like a spiritual successor of In the Mood for Love, which is like, I'm going to be honest with you, that's going to be way up on this list, but it came out afterwards, and it's essentially, a writer, reflecting on his life and on his loves, and he's writing the story about, what if there was a train that could take you back to a place of like all your memories and all the good things that have happened in your life. Like, would you take this train and go and not be able to ever come back? And it's basically a lot about how nostalgia can overwhelm you. Longing can overwhelm you and maybe prevent you from living in the moment. It's also, I mean, the guy doesn't really direct a bad movie, in my opinion. I just like a lot of these movies, but I would put it lower compared to a lot of the other films that are about to follow. Now, next I would put, and this is, again, these are all my opinions, but I would put, should I say, because I haven't seen Ashes of Time, I would put that at the lowest, but it may be better. I just haven't seen it, so I can't really give you my opinion on it. But I know that Ashes of Time, because that movie was so big and drawn out, he actually made two of these movies that are going to be higher up on the list in the downtime between that movie, like to get out his creativeness. He wrote these really cheap movies that I've always heard from others that they're better than Ashes of Time. Ashes of Time, I've heard, is kind of a bloated mess. and I'll probably either have that below 2046 or even below as tiers go by. Um, but okay, so getting back to the point at hand, I would probably put Happy Together as the next one on this list. Now, this is like a watershed film in LGBTQ representation. It's basically two lovers, gay lovers, that are from Hong Kong, and they are living in Buenos Aires in Argentina, and it's kind of like the coming together, the falling out, the coming back together, the maybe continued falling out of the couple. It's it's wonderfully shot. It's evocative. It's emotional. It's a very good film. I mean, like I said, all these films are good. He's like very much like Tarantino, like not Tarantino, should I say, Kubrick, because Tarantino does have a couple clunkers in my opinion, but uh, he's like Kubrick. Wong Kar Wai to me is like Kubrick. That's why I would rate him up there with Kubrick. And that even like the bad films, the ones that aren't like the best of the best, even by my opinion, they're still very good. They're still wonderful, wonderful to revisit and watch. And I enjoyed Happy Together. I thought it was really good. Um, I thought the performances were amazing between the two leads. Um, and you know, I always butcher their names, but I want to try to say their names because I want to give them credit for, especially the two males in here. Like they really, really did a good job. And I know one of them, Tony Luing Chu Wai. He is a guy who appears in a lot of Quentin. God, I keep saying Quentin Tarantino. Appears a lot in Wong Kar Wai's films. But Leslie Chung Kwok Wing, he is in this movie, and he, unfortunately, I don't think, I always say that. I know he committed suicide, so this is one of the bigger films in his filmography because he was in a lot of big movies in China, and he was considered like one of the biggest actors in China. So to get these two together in the mid '90s in a film, in a gay romance film, is like, that's pretty, you know, pretty ballsy by Wong Kar Wai, that he was, you know, because we all know about China. It's kind of that he was able to get that by without, you know, people getting all, the censors getting all involved and all pissed. And Leslie had also worked with him on other film that are about to talk about that I feel is a little bit better. And it's actually like the first film that he started getting his style. But we're going to move on to the next, what I would rate slightly above this. And I would rate The Grandmaster, the next film. I thought it was a wonderful film. You know, the kind of, because it's a historical biop film, but it's also told with such flair. And I've only seen it once, I'm gonna be honest, and it's kind of long. I really enjoyed it. It's got Zhang Ziyi and from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, I've always had kind of a crush on. I think she's a great actress and she can kick my ass, so that's kind of cool too. So I would rate The Grandmaster just above Happy Together, but like they're really close. Like I was really thinking on that one, like where should it go? And you know, I'm not gay, so maybe if I was gay, I would say, oh, Happy Together has to go higher. I kind of wonder on these things, but I do know that Happy Together is a very good film. You know, compared to like Brokeback Mountain, for instance, I think Happy Together is a better film than Brokeback Mountain. But Brokeback Mountain gets all the publicity because it's the Western movie, as far as like in Western society, and you know the Hollywood produced thing, but I feel like Happy Together is so much more emotional. Uh, it's just, you know, I just like the direction of it better. But back to talking about The Grandmaster, it's, if you like good action sequences, you know, a good biographical, you know, take on one of the most important martial artists of all time, because of, you know, he trains Bruce Lee, who becomes like the guy that most all of us Westerners know. Um, you know, and that inspires, you know, Jackie Chan and Tony Jaa and all these, you know, great, you know, martial art filmmakers that just make, you know, incredibly good movies. I mean, shoot, even my boy Jean Claude Van Damme. Like they're all kind of a direct descendant of Bruce Lee films, and Bruce Lee was trained by Ip Man, who is the main character of the Grandmaster. So I would definitely check that out if you haven't seen it. It's a really really good film. So we have As Tears Go By, My Blueberry Nights, 2046, Happy Together, The Grandmaster, and now we're starting to get into like the rarefied air, like his best of best films. And for me, I would say his next best film is Days of Being Wild. I think that it's one of the best titled movies ever. I love that title, Days of Being Wild. Essentially about a young man. It's Leslie Chang Kwok Wing again, trying to find his mother. And it's set in I think in the early 60s, I want to say. And it's a period piece, but it just feels so modern. I think it came out in 1990 or 91, and it's beautiful. It's it used to have it lower. Honestly, I used to have it, maybe below, even below Happy Together. But I rewatched it recently, and I realized how much how good it is. It's a very, very, very good film. It's his sophomore film, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it's one to remember. So now moving on, we're going to. These are when he starts getting to like his most creative era, the '90s, and I struggle with this because I really, of all his movies that have emotionally stirred me the most, like actually made me cry, or tear up, should I say? It was, but there are parts of it that kind of prevent it from being, number one overall or even number two. So I'm going to leave it at number three. But sometimes I think the more I watch it, it could maybe move up there because, like I say, it's the only one of all of these that I had a moment or I really teared up in it. And that movie is Fallen Angels from 1995. It is I should set it up. So essentially, if you think of it as one coin, Chungking Express is like the light side, and Fallen Angels is the dark side. It's like this one all takes place at night, the shots, and it seems like all these take place mostly during the day. They were shot around the exact same time. I think they actually were shot at the same time. And I love these two films so much. I think that, like I say, it's just I keep it slightly below Chungking Express and what's honestly going to be the number one film. I haven't got to it yet, but there's nothing wrong with it. I love it. Some people put it a little lower. I see a lot of people put it generally below Days of Being Wild, and some people put it below Happy Together. But it just had some scenes to me that were just very, very beautiful, and they really made me think on my own life. And I love the ending. And if you know me, the endings are so, so, so important. And this one just had an absolutely fantastically shot ending. I really liked it. So yeah, Fallen Angels, I would put number three. Next, number two. I'm sitting here looking at it, and I'm just like, I'm gonna put it number two. But you wanna know what? Just talking about Fallen Angels so much and everything. While I love that movie, I'm going to keep it number three. Fallen Angels number three. Number two, I'm going to put In the Mood for Love. Now, this could change any day. Sometimes In the Mood for Love is number one for me. Sometimes it's number two. Today, I feel like it's number two. And when I say number two, this movie won the Cannes Film Festival. Okay? Like, it's an all-time great film. It was just listed as number 4 overall in the New York Times. So I'm like, yeah, that should let you know how good I think Chungking Express is. But In the Mood for Love is a masterpiece. It's I don't like to throw that word around loosely all the time, like so many others do. Like, I hear way too much about comic book movies, but In the Mood for Love is an actual real masterpiece of emotional filmmaking. Um, I mean, I just really don't even know where to set it up to say so much about it. It's just so good. It's essentially two neighbors who are moving into the same apartment complex find out that their spouses are cheating on them with each other. And instead of being, furious and mad and all that, they actually lean into each other, like, oh, well, maybe if our spouses like each other, maybe we should like each other. And it's just such a great idea for a movie. It's set in the 60s again, like Days of Being Wild. And, it's not, I'm just reading right here, it's 98 minutes. It's 98 of the most glorious minutes. I thought it was a 2 hour something movie. And it's not. Just the way it's shot, like the hold on take, it feels longer. And, if you're a good filmmaker, I like that when I have that feeling, like, oh, I just don't want it to end. Very much like, I think I had mentioned Fincher's Zodiac. I got so into that movie, even though I knew that the Zodiac killer was never caught. I didn't care. The world that was built was so just entrancing. I just wanted to go on and on and on and on, and that's how I felt about In the Mood of Love. It was is so good and formalized, should I say. There's a lot of like slow motion and close-ups, and it's just like he's at the peak of his game. He's at the peak of his directorial game. And like I say, sometimes I'm like it's number 1. Sometimes I'm like it's number 2. I go back and forth between this movie and Chungking Express, which today I'm going to pick Chungking Express as my number 1. And this is my first exposure to him. Sometimes I think like that's why you love it, number 1. But it is such a good film. I have shown this movie to so many people from different backgrounds, and even people who I would think would never like this type of stuff. They end up falling in love with these characters because they are so unique and real. It doesn't. None of it really feels forced upon. It really feels like you are peeking into the windows of these characters' real life. And essentially, it's a movie about two cops and the women who are in their life. Two heartsick cops, should I say? They've been jilted by their old lovers, or kind of stepped out on by them or moved on. Their lovers have moved on from them. But essentially, it's such a good movie. Just looking at this stuff, I just want to keep reading and not even talk to y'all anymore. It's just so good. It's these cops trying to move on from their past and move into their future, and they're both so depressed and so dependent on the woman that was before that they can't even see the women who are in front of them, who are holding out their hand to bring them into this new life. And it has this like kind of bittersweet take on love that is it's adult, because and not everything's always gumdrops and rainbows, and it all will love or conquer all. Sometimes it's like my insecurities, my depression lingers over me and I can't move forward. But what if somebody's still standing there, in the rain, holding their hand out for you, going, I won't give up on you? That's essentially what, kind of Chungking Express is about. It's about people helping you move forward. And they may not be your one and only forever, but they can help you become whole again. And, it's you really can't go wrong with any of these Wong Kar Wai films. I really mean that. He's so good. And I promise you, if you take the time to watch them, you'll be, and you're trying to get film literate, you're going to be shocked at how many directors have ripped off this style since the 90s. I mean, it's because it's that good. He literally created, like, David Lynch before him, and some other directors, like their own language, their own cinematic language. And Wong Kar Wai is one of the best. He's one of the absolute best in the world, and he's someone that Whenever I turn people on to him, they've never been disappointed. I've never had somebody say, "Oh, I didn't like that Wong Kar Wai film." Even some of the lesser films, as as Tears Go By, his debut, you're going to be like, "Dang, this is a good movie," like, because he's got what it takes to hold the story together and to make you enthralled. So yeah, that's what we're gonna rank them today. In the future, I plan on really individually, uh, kind of reviewing these movies and going like more in depth and stuff. But right now, since I'm just starting this channel out, I kind of just wanted to just get out as much as I could as far as content wise, and just let people know where I stand on certain things. But Wong Kar Wai is one of my all-time favorites. I'm very fortunate that he's starting to work again, and he's, like I said, he's doing this show, Shanghai Blossoms, and it's set like in the 90s. I know there's 30 episodes. That's all I know about it. I've been really trying to keep myself like da 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 da. I don't want to know anything about it. Want to go in blind. I don't know if I'm sure he hasn't directed 30 episodes. He's probably produced it, but that means that he'll have put the editors he wants, or the the filmmakers he wants to directing. So it'll still have his prints all over it. But yeah, I need to find Ashes of Time. I know, so I'll definitely be able to rank it once I find Ashes of Time and know where it ranks overall. Um, but Wong Kar Wai, please seek it out. Trust me, you're gonna absolutely love him. All right, that's all for today.